The signal came from a dying star system. On the edge of known space, it traveled. Through old relay beacons that most species had forgotten about. The message was simple and desperate. Someone needed help. Someone was dying. They had never known war before the Kree came. They were a peaceful people who spent their days studying the stars and growing beautiful gardens. Their cities were made of white stone and glass. Their music filled the air. Children played in open streets without fear. Then the Kree Dominion arrived with their war fleets. They wanted the Vanny star system for its resources. They did not ask. They did not negotiate. They simply attacked. They had no weapons. They had no soldiers. They had no idea how to fight back. Their people died by the thousands. Their cities burned. Within 3 months, half of their population was gone. In their desperation, the Vanny remembered old stories. Legends passed down from ancient times spoke of guardians among the stars, beings of light who would come to help those in need. Angels, some called them, protectors who would answer a cry for help. They sent their message into the void. They begged for anyone to hear them. They asked for angels to save them. The message reached Earth's outer colonies. After traveling for weeks, it bounced through old networks and relay stations until it finally arrived at a human listening post near the frontier. The young technician who received it did not know what to make of it at first. Species called they under attack, requesting aid. The technician forwarded it to Earth Command. Earth Command forwarded it to the Expeditionary Council. The council met in a gray room on Mars. 12 men and women sat around a long table. They had fought in wars. They had made hard choices. They knew what intervention meant. We have no treaty with these Vanny, one council member said. We have no obligation. They are dying. Another replied, that should be obligation enough. They debated for 2 hours. Some said Earth could not afford another conflict. Some said humanity had its own problems. Others argued that turning away from a genocide made them no better than the aggressors. Finally, they voted 7-5. Humanity would respond. Captain Tai Min received the orders at his ship's command post. He was 42 years old with gray starting to show at his temples. He had served in 3 wars. His hands bore scars from old battles. His eyes had seen things he wished he could forget. The ship under his command was called the Iron Resolve. It was not a beautiful vessel. Its hull was dark metal, dented and repaired in a dozen places. Weapons bristled from its sides. It looked exactly like what it was, a warship that had survived many fights. Thy men read the mission brief 3 times. Rescue the Vanny, drive off the CF, provide humanitarian aid, standard intervention protocol. Nothing was ever standard. He called his senior officers to the briefing room. They arrived one by one, curious about the sudden summoned. Jai Wu was his tactical officer. She was 31, sharp-minded and faster with combat calculations than anyone Tai Min had ever met. She wore her black hair cut short for practicality. A long scar ran down her left forearm from a boarding action 2 years prior. Hyan Wu was the chief engineer. He was built like a barrel with strong hands and a mind that could rebuild a plasma drive from spare parts. He had kept the Iron Resolve running through impossible situations. The crew said he could fix anything except his own terrible jokes. Su Jin was the head medical officer. She was quiet most of the time but absolutely fierce when protecting her patients. She had saved more lives than anyone could count. She also had a habit of ignoring rank when someone's health was at stake. Even Timon did not argue. When Sujin ordered him to rest, Tamon displayed the mission parameters on the screen. We are going to help a species called Thay. They are under attack by the Kree Dominion. Our job is to stop it. Jiu studied the tactical data. The Kree have 15 warships in that system. We have one for now. Tamon said command is sending reinforcements. They will arrive in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a long time when people are dying, Sujin said quietly. Which is why we leave in 6 hours, Tae Min replied. We will do what we can until help arrives. Hyen Wu leaned back in his chair. Do we know anything about these? Can they fight? According to the intelligence report, they have never fought anyone. They are a peaceful species, no military, no weapons. The room went quiet for a moment. They all understood what that meant. The Vani were lambs surrounded by wolves. Without help, they would all die. They sent their distress call through old relay beacons, Jiu said, reading from her data pad. The message asked for guardians, angels, protectors from the stars. Hyen Wu laughed, but there was no humor in it. Angels, they are going to be very disappointed when they see us. Tamon understood what he meant. The Iron Resolve and her crew were not angels. They were scarred and tired. They were soldiers who had seen too much death. They were people who knew that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent was to become very good at violence. Maybe, Tamon said, but disappointed and alive is better than hopeful and dead. We leave at 600 hours. Prepare the ship. The officers left to ready their departments. Tae Min remained alone. The briefing room, staring at the star chart. The Vani system was 3 weeks away. At maximum speed, 3 weeks while people died. He thought about the message the Vani had sent. They had asked for angels. They had asked for beings of pure light who would descend from the heavens and save them with divine power. Instead, they were getting human beings, flawed, scarred, mortal human beings in a damaged warship. They were getting people who knew how to fight because they had been forced to learn, people who knew how to protect others because they had failed to protect some and still carried that guilt. Tamon touched the small photo he kept in his breast pocket. His family lost to raiders 8 years ago. He had not been there to save them. He had been away on deployment. By the time he got the news, it was too late. He made a promise to himself that day he would never let it be too late again, not if he could help it. The Iron Resolve launched 6 hours later, burning through space toward the system, toward people who needed help, toward a war that was not theirs but that they would fight anyway, because that was what humans did. They showed up. They stood in the gap. They held the line. Not because they were angels, but because they were human. The Iron Resolve dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the Vani system. The sensors immediately lit up with warnings. 15 Kree warships were spread across the system. 3 Vani colonies were already destroyed. 2 more were under active bombardment. Get me a full tactical picture, Tamon ordered from his command chair. Jiu, find me their weak points. Jiu and LT Unk and GTS. Fingers flew across her console. The Kree are using standard Dominion formation. Heavy ships in front, support vessels behind. They are confident, maybe too Confident. Overconfidence is a weakness we can use. Tammin said, Hunwoo, how are our weapons? Ready to make some noise. Captain, the engineer replied from his station below decks, though I hope you have a plan. 15 to 1 are not good odds. We are not here to fight all 15, Tammin said. Not yet, we are here to buy time and make contact with the Find Me there leadership. It took 20 minutes to establish communication. The face that appeared on the view screen was humanoid but different. The Vanny had smooth pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed too kind for someone who had witnessed so much death. This was Sylv, the leader of what remained of the Vanny people. You came, Sylv said, and there were tears in those large eyes. The guardians came. The angels heard our call. Tammin felt something twist in his chest. He looked at his scarred hands, at his battered ship, at his tired crew. Angels, they thought humanity was sending angels. We came to help, Tammin said carefully, but we need you to understand something. We are soldiers. We fight wars. We are not you are here, Silva interrupted. That is all that matters. We prayed for salvation. You are our answer. There was no point in arguing. Tammin switched to tactical mode. We need to meet in person. Can you give us coordinates for a safe landing? 2 hours later, Tammin, Jaiwoo, Hyenwoo, and Sujin stood in what remained of the Vanny capital city. It had once been beautiful, now half of it was rubble. The white stone was blackened, the gardens were burned, bodies lay in the streets. Sujin immediately moved toward the wounded. Her medical training overrode everything else. She knelt beside a Vanny child, her hands gentle as she examined injuries. They stared at the humans with a mixture of hope and confusion. These were their saviors, these scarred, grim-faced beings in dark armor. Where were the wings? Where was the divine light? Sylv led them to a command center deep underground. Other Vanny leaders were there, along with what passed for their military civilian volunteers with no training and no weapons. Show me your defenses, Thyman said. They looked at each other confused. We have shelters, Sylvie said, underground bunkers where people hide during attacks, shields, weapons, fortified positions. We do not have such things. We are a people of peace. Jew pulled up a holographic display of the city. We're a people of peace, past tense. The Cree changed that for you. Now you need to survive. They looked uncomfortable with her bluntness, but they could not argue with the truth. Tammin studied the city layout. We will start by establishing defensive perimeters here, and here. Hyenwoo, can we set up shield generators? Give me 3 days and a work crew. I will turn this city into a fortress. You have 2 days. The Cree will notice us soon and change their attack pattern. Tae Min turned to Sylv. I need every able-bodied Vanny to help. We are going to teach your people how to evacuate quickly, how to take cover, how to recognize incoming attacks. You want to teach us about war, Sylvie said quietly. I want to teach you how to survive one. The next 48 hours were chaos. Hyenwoo and his engineering teams worked without sleep, installing portable shield generators at key points around the city. They set up automated defense turrets. They reinforced shelters. They created supply caches. They watched these preparations with growing horror. The humans were building instruments of death in their city, weapons, machines designed to kill. Jiu organized civilian evacuation drills. She was patient but firm. When the alarm sounds, you have 5 minutes to reach shelter, not 6, not 7, 5. After that, the shields go up and you are on your own. She made them practice over and over. They complained this was too harsh, too militaristic. This was not their way. Your way got half your species killed. Jiu said bluntly, we are teaching you a new way, the way to survive. Sujin set up medical stations throughout the city. She trained Villani volunteers in basic first aid. She was gentler than Jiu in her teaching, but no less serious. You need to know how to stop bleeding, she told a group of who looked like they might faint at the sight of medical equipment. You need to know how to recognize shock. You need to know how to save each other. Because I cannot be everywhere at once. A young Vanny named I asked, how do you do this? How do you live with so much death and pain? Sujin was quiet for a moment. You do not live with it. You live despite it. You remember that every person you save is a reason to keep going. On the third day, the Kree noticed the human presence. 3 of their warships broke formation and moved toward the planet. Tammin was in the command center. When the alert came, here we go, this is what we prepared for. Everyone to stations. The iron resolve lifted from the planet's surface, moving to intercept the Kree ships on the ground. The defense systems powered up. Shields flickered into existence over the city. Turrets tracked the sky. The Villani crowded into shelters, frightened. They had never seen their city turn into a fortress before. They had never prepared for battle. The Kree warships entered orbit and opened fire. Plasma bolts rained down on the city. The shields held. The bolts splashed against the energy barriers like water against rock. The automated turrets fired back, sending missiles up into the atmosphere. In space, the iron resolve engaged all 3 Kree vessels at once. It should have been impossible, 1 ship against 3, but Jiu had studied their tactics. For days she knew how they moved. She knew how they thought. Target their communications array first, she called out. Make them fight individually, not as a group. The iron resolve danced between the Kree ships, firing precisely, moving constantly. It was not trying to destroy them, not yet. It was trying to them. 1 Kree ship lost its communication system. Another took damage to its engines. The 3rd retreated, confused by the human ships' tactics. After 30 minutes of combat, the Kree withdrew, not destroyed but hurt, not defeated but cautious. The iron resolve returned to orbit over the city, damaged but intact. Heian Wu immediately started repairs, cursing the Kree and praising his engineering team in equal measure. On the ground, the Villani emerged from their shelters. The city was intact. The shields had worked. The defenses had held. They looked at the human soldiers among them, these scarred, tired beings who had built weapons in their city and taught them about war. These people who fought with such calculated fury. Sylv found Su Jin at one of the medical stations. The human doctor was treating wounded from the attack, both Vanny and 2 human engineers who had been caught outside during the bombardment. You saved us, Sylvie said. Sujin did not look up from her work. Her hands moved efficiently, treating a burn on a Vanny child's arm. We bought you time. That is not the same as saving you. The Kree will come back, probably with more ships, but you will fight them again. Yes, why? We are not your people. This is not your war. Now Sujin did look up. Her eyes were tired but fierce. It became our war the moment we decided it was wrong. That is what humans do. We see something evil happening and we stand against it even when it costs you. Sujin returned to her patient, especially then that night. Tame stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Jiu found him there. They are starting to understand, she said. I heard some of them talking. They thought angels would save them without any blood being spilled. Now they are realizing that protection has a price. Do you think they can pay it? Tammin asked. I think they are learning to. We are not here to be their angels. We are here to teach them how to be their own guardians. Above them the stars glittered. Somewhere out there, more CRT ships were planning their next attack, and somewhere farther still, human reinforcements were racing to help. But here, now in this moment, 400 humans stood between Thay and extinction. Not angels, just humans, but for Thay, that would have to be enough. The Kree warlord Thexer watched the battle reports with growing rage. 3 of his ships damaged by a single human vessel, his ground assault repelled by hastily built defenses. These humans had appeared from nowhere and disrupted everything. He called his commanders together in his war room. Holographic display showed the system with human positions marked in red. Who are these humans? Thexer demanded. A relatively young species warlord. One commander replied. They have only been spacefaring for 200 years, but they have been fighting each other for their entire history. They are warriors. They are survivors. They have no natural advantages. They are not strong or fast. They have no special abilities, but they refuse to die easily. Thexer studied the tactical data. 1 ship, 400 soldiers. They were vastly outnumbered. Then we will show them what real power looks like. Bring forward the planet killer weapon. The commander hesitated. Warlord, using such a weapon on a civilian population will send a message. The humans want to protect these. Let them watch an entire colony die. Let them understand the cost of defying the Kree dominion. On the planet's surface, Tay Min received intelligence about the planet killer from his scouts. His blood ran cold. A weapon capable of destroying all life on a Vanny colony world in minutes. The CFT were planning to use it on the northern settlement, home to 2 million Vanny. He called an emergency meeting with his officers in Sylve. We have to evacuate them, Sylve said. Immediately, get everyone off that colony. There is not enough time, Jiu said, her voice heavy. The weapon will be in position in 18 hours. We can evacuate maybe 300,000 people in that time, not 2 million. The room fell silent. The math was brutal and simple. Most of those people would die. What if we destroy the weapon? Hyen Wu asked. Tam Min pulled up the schematics. It is heavily guarded. 6 warships surrounding it, even with the iron resolve. We cannot fight through that. What if we do not fight? Hyen Wu said. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. What if we sneak in a small team? Sabotage the weapon before it can fire? A suicide mission, Jiu said flatly. Maybe, but if we do nothing, 2 million people definitely die. Tammin looked around the room at his tired officers. At Sylve, whose species was being exterminated, at the tactical display, showing an impossible situation. I will lead the mission, he said. No, Jai Wu replied immediately. You are the captain. The crew needs you. I will go. Neither of you are going, Hyan Wu said. This is an engineering problem. Sabotaging that weapon requires someone who understands plasma dynamics and fusion cores. That is me, Su Jin spoke. Up quietly, you will need a medic. Those ships will have security. There will be fighting. People will get hurt. Absolutely not, Tam said. I cannot send my entire senior staff on a suicide mission. Then you are not sending anyone, Yun Wu said stubbornly, because I am going with or without orders, and if Jiu and Sujin feel the same way, you cannot stop all of us. Tai Min wanted to argue, wanted to order them to stand down, but he saw the determination in their eyes. They had made their choice. Fine, he said finally, but I'm coming too. Jiu takes command of the Iron Resolve. The three of us go in. They spend the next 6 hours planning. Stolen Kree shuttle would get them close. Forged credentials would get them on board the weapon platform. After that, it was speed and luck. As they prepared to leave, Sujin checked their equipment one last time. Tai Min noticed her hands were shaking slightly. Scared, he asked. Terrified, she admitted, but more scared of doing nothing. Hyan Wu joined them carrying a pack full of explosives and tools, ready to save 2 million people, ready to try. Tammin replied. The stolen shuttle launched under cover of darkness. Jiu guided them through the Kree patrol routes from the Iron Resolve, finding gaps in their coverage. They approached the weapon platform, pretending to be a supply run. The Kree guards were suspicious but not alarmed. Humans were foolish to challenge the Dominion, but they were not known for suicide attacks. The shuttle was allowed to dock. Tammin, Hyan Wu, and Su Jin stepped onto the platform wearing stolen Kree armor. It was uncomfortable and too large, but it let them move through the corridors without immediate detection. They made it to the engineering section. Before alarms started blaring, someone had noticed the forged credentials, or maybe they just got unlucky. Either way, their cover was blown. Move, Tammin shouted. They ran through the corridors, Kree soldiers appearing behind them. Tammin and Su Jin returned fire, covering Hyan Wu as he raced toward the fusion core. They reached the core chamber. Hyan Wu immediately started working, his hands flying over the controls. I need 5 minutes. You might not have them, Sujin said. She was bandaging a wound on Tai's shoulder. Plasma bolt had grazed him during the running fight. Kree soldiers poured into the chamber. Tammin and Su Jin held the doorway. They fired until their weapons overheated, then fired some more. Su Jin took a hit to her leg and went down. Tammin pulled her behind cover, still shooting. 4 minutes, Yan Wu called out. More Kree came. Tammin was running out of ammunition. Su Jin was pale from blood loss. This was it. This was where they would die. Suddenly, new weapons fire erupted from behind the Kree soldiers. Human weapons, a dozen Marines in combat. Armor crashed into the Kree from behind. Captain, one of them shouted, Commander, Geo sent us, figured you could use backup. With the Marines holding the line, Hyan Wu finished his work. Core overload in 60 seconds. We need to go. Now they ran, wounded, exhausted, but moving. The Marines covered their retreat, falling back in disciplined formation. They reached the shuttle with 30 seconds to spare. As they cleared the platform, the fusion core detonated. The planet killer weapon tore itself apart. In a cascade of explosions, the 6 guard ships tried to retreat but were caught in the blast radius. 5 were Destroyed, one escaped heavily damaged. Back on the Iron Resolve, Su Jin collapsed in the medical bay, the wound in her leg was serious. She had lost a lot of blood, but she would live. Hyan Wu sat against a bulkhead, staring at his hands. They were burned from working with the fusion core. He did not seem to notice. We did it, he said quietly. 2 million people are alive because we did it, but the cost had been high. Of the dozen Marines who had come to rescue them, only 7 made it back. 5 good people dead. 5 families who would get terrible news. 5 graves that would never be visited because their bodies were lost in space. Time visited each of the 7 survivors personally, thanked them, told them their friends had died. Heroes, the words felt hollow and inadequate. Later he stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. You found him there. They are celebrating, she said. They say we performed a miracle, saved 2 million lives at the cost of 5 of our own. Yes, that is the price Guardians pay. We knew this when we came. Tammin thought about those 5 Marines, young men and women who had volunteered for a desperate rescue mission, who had known they might not come back, who had gone anyway. They wanted angels, he said, beings who could save them without sacrifice, without loss. But that is not how the real world works. No, Jew agreed. The real world requires people willing to pay the price, to make the hard choices, to sacrifice themselves so others can live. Down on the planet, the northern colony was alive and intact. 2 million Vanni who did not know how close they had come to death, children playing, families together, life continuing. And in space, floating among the debris of the destroyed weapon platform, were 5 human bodies that would never make it home, heroes whose names the Vanni would never know, guardians who had died so others could live, not angels, just humans. But maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. Theixner stood over the holographic display of his war room, his claws scraping against the metal table. The destruction of his planet killer weapon had been more than a tactical loss. It had been humiliation. They made fools of us, he growled. 3 humans and a handful of soldiers destroyed our most powerful weapon. Other dominions will hear of this. They will see weakness. His chief admiral stepped forward cautiously. Warlord, perhaps we should reconsider this campaign. The humans are more dangerous than we anticipated. Their reinforcements will arrive soon. No. Thexer's voice was absolute. We end this now. I am committing the entire Kree fleet to this system, every warship, every soldier. We will crush the humans and exterminate every last. No survivors, no mercy. The admiral looked alarmed. The entire fleet that leaves our other territories undefended. I do not care. This has become personal. Those humans want to be guardians. Let them die as guardians. Prepare for total assault on the human side. The situation was equally tense. Tammin stood in the command center, staring at the tactical display. Red markers filled the screen. 30 Kree warships were gathering at the edge of the system. More were arriving every hour. This is bad, Yu said quietly. She had replaced the bandage on her arm, a wound from the last engagement. Even with our reinforcements, we will be outnumbered 3-1. When do our reinforcements arrive? Tam Min asked. 3 days. The Kree will attack before then. Hyan Wu joined Them his burned hands wrapped in medical tape. He refused to take time off despite Sujin and LT Unk and GT's orders. We need a defensive plan. We cannot fight them in open space. No, Taman agreed. We use the planet, make them come to us. Use the orbital space, the atmosphere, the gravity well, turn the planet itself into our fortress. They spent the next day repositioning their forces. The Iron Resolve and 3 escort ships took positions in high orbit. Defense platforms were scattered throughout the orbital space. Mines were laid in probable approach vectors. On the surface, the Vanny prepared for the worst. Hyen Wu had trained teams of them to operate the shield generators and automated defenses. They were not soldiers, but they were learning to be survivors. Then came the message from Earth Command. Taman read it 3 times, not quite believing what he was seeing. They are ordering us to retreat, he said finally. The command center went silent. Ju took the data pad and read it herself. They say the odds are too poor. They want us to evacuate key leadership and fall back, preserve our forces. Abandon them. Sujin and LT Unk and GT's voice was sharp. Leave 2 billion to die. Those are our orders, Taman said, but his voice had no conviction. Sylv was in the command center when the discussion happened. Thay leader looked at the humans, understanding dawning. You are leaving. Command wants us to, Jiu said carefully. The tactical situation is you are leaving, Sylv repeated. The angels are abandoning us. Taman felt something break inside him. He looked at his officers at the tactical display showing impossible odds at Sylv, whose species faced extinction. He thought about those 5 Marines who had died saving 2 million Vanny. He thought about every human who had bled and suffered for people they had never met before. He thought about what it meant to be a guardian. No, he said quietly, we are not leaving. Jai Wu looked at him. Captain, that is a direct order from Earth Command. I know, and I am disobeying it. Tam turned to face his officers. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle. No judgment, no consequences, but they Iron Resolve stays. I stay. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Hyen Wu laughed, a rough, exhausted sound. You think I came this far just to run away? Now I stay. We all stay, Sujin said firmly. The others nodded in agreement. Ju smiled slightly. You are going to get court-martialed for this, probably. But I will be court-martialed as someone who stood his ground. I can live with that. He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. His voice was broadcast to every ship, every soldier. This is Captain Taman. Earth Command has ordered us to retreat, to abandon the Vanny and preserve our forces. I am refusing that order. The Iron Resolve will remain and fight. Any ship that wishes to follow command orders may do so. I will not hold it against you. He paused, then continued, but I want you to understand something. They asked for angels. They wanted beings of pure light who would save them without cost or pain. That is not what we are. We are humans. We are flawed. We are mortal. We bleed and we break, but we are also something the Vanny need more than angels. We are people who stand our ground. We are people who keep our promises. When we say we will protect someone, we mean it, even when it costs us everything. So I'm staying. The Iron Resolve stays. This is our line. This is where we make our stand. Anyone who wants to stand with us is welcome. Anyone who wants to leave is free to do so. Choose now. The channel went quiet. For a long moment nothing happened, then ship after ship responded, the escort vessels, the supply ships, even the medical frigate. This is the Steadfast. We stand with you, Captain. This is the Morning Star. We are not going anywhere. This is the medical ship Mercy. Our place is here. Every human ship in the system chose to stay. 400 humans became 800 as crew members from support ships. Volunteered for combat roles. Engineers became gunners. Medical staff became soldiers. Everyone who could hold a weapon prepared to fight. The Vaney watched in awe and confusion. These humans were disobeying their own government to stay and fight. Why? What would make someone choose certain death over safety? Sylvain found time in on the observation deck. I do not understand you, the Vaney leader said. Angels would leave because they cannot bear to witness suffering. Why do humans stay? Tammin looked out at the stars where the Kree fleet was gathering. Because angels are beautiful ideas, but when darkness comes, you do not need beings who have never known pain. You need those who have survived it and choose to fight. Anyway, you will die here, maybe, probably, but we will die standing between you and those who want to hurt you. That is what Guardians do. I still do not understand. Tammin smiled, though there was sadness in it. The Vaney are a peaceful species. You have never known war, but humans, we have fought each other for thousands of years. We know what evil looks like. We have seen it in ourselves, and that is why we fight so hard to protect others from it. Because we know what happens when good people do nothing. We have been victims. We have been monsters. We have been bystanders. We have learned painfully that the only way to stop darkness is to stand against it, even when you cannot win, especially then, because sometimes the act of standing is more important than victory. Sometimes holding the line long enough for others to escape is its own kind of winning. The Kree fleet arrived the next day, 30 warships against 8 human vessels. The tactical display looked like a nightmare. Tamlin sat in his command chair looking at the enemy formation. His crew was at their stations. Every human in the fleet was ready. All ships, he broadcast. This is it. This is what we came for. Remember, we are not here to win. We are here to hold, to protect, to stand for as long as we can. We are the wall between the Kree and the Vaney. He looked at Jai Wu, at her scarred face and determined eyes, at Hyen Wu, already running calculations on how to keep systems running past their safety limits, at Su Jin, preparing medical bays for casualties that would definitely come for everyone who cannot fight. Tammin said quietly, for everyone who asked for help, for everyone who needs us to be something more than we are. We hold this line. The Kree fleet opened fire. The battle for the Vaney home world had begun, and humanity, outnumbered and outgunned, stood firm. Not because they were angels, but because they were human, and humans did not yield. The battle raged for 3 hours. The human ships fought with desperate precision, using every trick they knew. They used the planet's gravity to slingshot around for surprise attacks. They hid in the asteroid field and struck from ambush. They made the CFT pay for every meter of space, but the numbers were overwhelming. One by one, the human ships fell. The Steadfast took a direct hit to a reactor and exploded in a ball of fire. 63 crew members gone in an instant. The morning. Star lost all power and drifted helplessly until CF fire tore her apart. Another 120 humans dead in the iron. Resolve sparks flew from damaged. Console, the ship shook with each impact. Hyan Wu and LT Unk and GT's voice crackled over the intercom from engineering. Whole breaches on decks 3 and 5. I am rerouting power, but we are running on fumes here. Jiu worked her tactical console despite blood running down her face from a head wound, shields at 15%. Weapons at half capacity. Captain, we cannot take much more. Tammin gripped his command chair as another explosion rocked the ship around him. His bridge crew fought on despite their wounds and exhaustion. They had been in continuous combat for hours. Every one of them could have evacuated. Every one of them chose to stay on the surface. Watch the battle through their observation systems. They saw human ships dying to protect them. They saw the iron resolve battered and burning. Still fighting, still holding the line. Something changed in the Vanny that day. For the first time in their history, they felt more than fear. They felt anger, righteous, burning anger at the injustice of watching their protectors die. Sylvie stood in the command center, surrounded by Vanny who had never held weapons in their lives. We cannot just watch them die for us, the Anani leader said. We must do something. What can we do? Another Vanny asked. We have no warships, no weapons. We are not fighters. No, Sylve agreed, but we are not helpless either. We have the defense platforms the humans built. We have the shield generators. We have ships, cargo ships, passenger ships, not warships but still ships. Understanding spread through the could not fight like humans, but they could still fight. Within minutes, every who could pilot a ship was launching from the planet. Cargo haulers, passenger transports, even small personal craft, hundreds of ships rising from the surface, armed with nothing but courage and determination. On the iron resolve, Jiu and LT Unk and GT's eyes widened at her sensors. Captain, I am reading multiple launches from the surface. Vanny ships, hundreds of them. What are they doing? Tay Men demanded. They will be slaughtered, but the Vanny were not attacking. They were positioning themselves between the human ships and the Kree fleet, using their own bodies as shields, protecting those who had come to protect them. The Kree hesitated. They had come to exterminate a helpless species. This was not helpless, this was defiance. Then something else appeared on the sensors. New contacts, dozens of them, dropping out of faster than light travel. At the edge of the system. Identify those ships, Tammin ordered. Jiu worked her console frantically. Then she laughed, a sound of exhausted relief. They are human, Captain, but not from Earth Command. These are colony ships, independent traders, mercenary groups. They heard about our stand and they came. The communications channels lit up with voices. This is the freighter Bold Fortune. We are not military, but we can still shoot straight. This is the colony ship New Dawn. You need help. We are here. This is the mercenary company Iron Wolves. Nobody fights humans alone. That is the rule. More and more ships arrived. Not an organized fleet, not military vessels. Just people who had heard that humans were making a stand, who decided that was something worth supporting. The Kree fleet, which had been confident of victory, suddenly found itself facing an armada, not professional, not coordinated but numerous and absolutely unwilling to retreat. Thexer watched his tactical display with growing disbelief. How had this happened? He had brought overwhelming force. He had planned for every contingency except humans refusing to follow their own orders, except Vaney learning to fight, except reinforcements from nowhere. Warlord, his admiral said urgently, we have lost 7 ships. Our forces are scattered. The humans are I can see what the humans are doing. Thexer roared, then quieter, filled with bitter understanding. They were never trying to win. They were buying time, holding long enough for help to arrive. He looked at his remaining forces. He looked at the growing human fleet. He thought about his other territories left undefended while he pursued this vendetta. Retreat, he said finally. Order all ships to withdraw. But Warlord, now, before we lose the entire fleet. The Kree warships broke off their attack and fled into faster than light travel. One by one they disappeared, leaving the system to the humans, and for a moment nobody moved, nobody spoke. They had survived against impossible odds. They had survived. Then the cheering started. On every human ship, on every vessel, the sound of people who had faced death and lived, who had stood together and held on the iron resolve. Tammin slumped in his command chair. His ship was barely functional. Of his original crew of 800, 431 remained. The others were dead or critically wounded. His beautiful ship was a wreck. But they had won. They had held the line. Sujin appeared on the bridge, exhausted and covered in other people's blood. She had been performing surgery during the battle, saving lives while explosions shook the ship around her. Medical bays are full. We need help. Help is here, Jiu said, pointing to her display. Ships were already moving to provide aid. Medical frigates, support vessels, even civilian ships offering their facilities. Over the next days, the system slowly recovered. Human engineers helped repair damaged Vanny cities. Sujin and her medical teams treated thousands of wounded. The dead were honored. The survivors began to heal. Tammin walked through the capital a week after the battle. His left arm was in a sling. He walked with a slight limp, but he was alive. The Vanny had erected something in the central plaza, a monument. Tai Min stopped when he saw it. It was not angels, not beings of light with wings and halos. It was human soldiers, standing firm, weapons raised, protecting those behind them. The figures were battered and wounded, just like the real humans had been, real, mortal but unyielding. The inscription at the base was simple. They did not yield. Sylvie found him there. The Vanny leader looked different now, older, changed by what they had witnessed and done. We called for angels, Sylvie said quietly. We wanted beings who would save us without pain or cost. We wanted a miracle. Instead, you got humans, Tammin said. Instead, we got something better. Sylv looked up at the monument. We got beings who know pain and choose to fight anyway, who know fear and stand despite it, who understand loss and still protect others from experiencing it. We got guardians, real ones, not myth, not legend, just people willing to hold the line when everything says they should run. Tammin looked at the monument, at the figures of soldiers who looked like him, like Jai Wu, like Yun Wu, like Sujin, like every human who had stood in this system and refused to yield. We lost good people, he said. 400 humans died here for people they had never met. For a species they had just learned about. They will never be forgotten. Sylve promised. Every Vanny child will learn their names. Every Vanny will know what they sacrificed. We asked for angels. You sent us heroes. We are not heroes, Tammin said tiredly. We are just people who could not stand by and watch innocent people die. That, Sylvie said gently, is exactly what makes you heroes. You found them at the monument. She had recovered from her wounds, but a new scar ran across her face. She would carry it forever. Earth Command is asking for you, Captain. They want to discuss your disobedience of orders. Tammin smiled slightly. I suppose a court-martial is waiting for me. Probably, but Earth Command is also receiving about 10,000 messages a day from various human colonies and groups praising your actions. You might be a hero back home, even if you are technically a criminal. I can live with that. They stood together looking at the monument, at the proof that sometimes standing against darkness was more important than following orders. That sometimes being human meant refusing to accept the unacceptable. Hyen Wu joined them, his hands still bandaged. The iron resolve is repaired enough to fly barely. She will need months in a shipyard to be truly fixed. But she can get us home. Sujin was the last to arrive. She looked exhausted, but satisfied. All the critical patients are stable. The Vanny medical teams are learning fast. They will be fine without us. Teen looked at his officers, his friends, people who had followed him into impossible odds and survived, ready to go home and face whatever consequences are waiting. Absolutely. Hyen Wu said, would not miss it. Jai Wu agreed. Together, Sujin added simply. They returned to the iron resolve. Ship was scarred and battered, but she flew as they lifted from the planet. Fanny lined the streets below, watching their guardians depart. Sylve sent one final message. You came when we called. For angels, you stayed when you had every reason to leave. You fought when victory was impossible. You held when others would have broken. Thank you for being human, for showing us that sometimes the best guardians are not those who have never fallen, but those who rise again despite every fall. Tammin read the message on the bridge. Around him, his remaining crew worked at their stations, scarred, tired, changed by what they had experienced, but still here, still standing. Set course for home, he ordered. The iron resolve turned away from the Vanny system and accelerated toward Earth, toward whatever consequences awaited them, toward the next crisis that would need someone to stand and fight, because that was what humans did. They stood, they fought, they protected, not because they were angels who had never known darkness, but because they were human. And humans did not yield.